you ever sat on your phone thinking, I just need to send one email, but your brain just refuses to move? You end up pacing the room, scrolling. Maybe you even open the fridge for the third time. And hours later, you've done everything but the one thing you actually need to do. That's not laziness. It's something called executive dysfunction. And if you live with AuDHD, it's one of the most frustrating, misunderstood parts of daily life. On the outside, it looks like you're avoiding stuff, but inside, it feels like your brain has completely disconnected the start button. I've been married now for over a year, but I still haven't officially changed my name. The forms sit there glaring at me, but I just can't. And then I tell myself I'm useless, good for nothing, a bad mum, which, by the way, only makes it 10 times harder to start. Hi, I'm Jess, that AuDHD mum. I'm here to help you understand your neurodivergent brain. On this channel, I share what life is really like when you've got autism and ADHD, and why so many of our struggles get mislabelled or completely dismissed. Today, we're diving into executive dysfunction, why it feels so hard to get started, why people confuse it with laziness, what's actually happening in the brain, and some practical ways to work with your brain instead of against it. So what does executive dysfunction feel like? For me, quite a clear example is parenting, the demands of parenting. When my son comes in first thing in the morning, the first thing he says is he wants breakfast. Now, to most mums, that would be simple. You just go to the cupboard and get food, right? But for me, I've got to think through all of the other steps. That's what my brain does. It thinks through every single step, and it feels so overwhelming. I've got to get them downstairs. I've got to make sure they're sat in the high chairs. I've got to make sure that I've got a spoon, that I've got a bowl. Where is the spoon? Where is the bowl? Is there any washed? Have I managed to wash any? Have we got food in? Have we got milk in? That's all the time with everything. Another example that you might find relatable. So let's take a journey. We're going to the shop. We've got to get there first. So we're going to get there. Say that's all gone fine. We've driven there. We've pulled up. We've got a space. We've walked in. We go in, and now we've got to follow this list. And there's 25, 30 aisles. I don't even know how many aisles there is in a shop. It's overwhelming. You've got to find this list of ingredients in the shop. That's your first task. But you've only gone up 2 aisles, and you're already feeling completely overwhelmed. You've found the section where there's potatoes, but there's so many different potatoes that you don't even know which one you're going to go for. That's executive dysfunction. Other people would know how to make that choice. For those of us that are neurodivergent, perhaps with ADHD or being autistic, we end up stuck at that point. How do we know which potato to pick? Unless it specifically says on the instructions, how do we know? And then, if there's not one there, what do we do? Other people might just go, I'll just get this potato instead. But for people like me who are struggling with executive dysfunction and decisions, that can be paralysing. And that's where decision paralysis can come from. Let's carry on this journey. Say we successfully manage to get everything. We're completely overwhelmed. We are completely exhausted. And then we've got to go home and we've got to cook. We've got to find the instructions for this meal that we've got to cook. We know how to do the cooking. We know how to use the cooking utensils, the oven, the stove. We know how to use it, but we've got to find everything to use it. And then what if we need 3 pans, but we've only got 2? What are we going to do? Oh, we've got to get one washed in between, but how are we going to figure out the timing? Because how are we going to make sure that we don't burn one thing and that we get everything ready all together so we've not got some hot and cold food on the same plate? And you see where this is going. You might think, well, everyone has to deal with that. But does everyone struggle with thinking about that, or do they just do it automatically? Another part that I find difficult is anything related to forms. I already mentioned about getting married and still not changing my name over a year later. But what about when it comes to new jobs, maybe a new course? They want forms, they want things to prove your identity. They want all these things rooted out. Well, you haven't looked at them for a year. You don't know where they are. Like, that is a huge task for someone who struggles with executive dysfunction. It's not just a simple answer. It's not just simply going and finding the paperwork and then it's done. It's so much bigger than that. Sometimes executive dysfunction can be as simple as knowing something needs to be done, but your brain just not allowing you to do it. You could know that the bins need to be taken out of the bin. You could know where the new bin bags are, you could know exactly where they need to go, but you just can't start and you're stuck. Then there's things like washing clothes, folding them, and then getting them away. If you're an ADHD, tell me in the comments, do you also have a doom pile in your bedroom where you've just been putting fresh clothes for longer than you should have been instead of putting them away because the task is just far too much? And it's not laziness because you do want it to be away, you just don't know how to start. And then we've got your working memory. How many times have you walked into another room to do something and then as soon as you've got in there, you have instantly forgotten what you were meant to be doing? Now, I know that a lot of people will say, but everyone does that from time to time. Yes, they do. Everyone does do that from time to time. All of us get brain fog from time to time. All of us struggle with things like that from time to time. But for us, for me, for ADHD is, it can be all the time, every day. And that, if you think about it, that is disabling. And you can see then why it would take someone with an ADHD or ADHD brain so much longer to get stuff done. It can be when you end up choosing the non-urgent task over the urgent task. And that can be your brain not prioritizing things as effectively as it perhaps should be. It might also be, if you've got a presentation to do for work, that you spend so long perfecting one particular slide that you end up nearly missing the deadline for the entire presentation because you spent so much time just on that one place. And of course, all of this links into emotional regulation. If you think about all of this that's going on inside an ADHD's brain, it's understandable why it can contribute or even be the sole cause of a meltdown or shutdown in an ADHDer. So why does it get mislabeled as laziness? So to the outsiders, people see you sitting there or standing there not able to do something. They don't see what's going on inside your brain when you're trying to get it done. They just see a whole list of things that need to be done that you haven't got done yet, so they assume that it's just pure laziness. They assume that you just don't care about it. Now, here's a story that I have from before I knew that I was autistic, before I even had kids. At my last house, we had a family member come round one day, and it was during a period of, now I recognise as intense burnout. I thought I was depressed at the time. I was struggling to do anything, and I was completely paralysed on the sofa. The house was an absolute tip. And when this family member came round, I expected them, as a close family member, to understand, knowing that, well, I'd explained that I was depressed and I was struggling with things. That's what I thought it was at the time. I expected them to be understanding, but instead it ended up causing a massive issue with me and my now husband. What this family member said was that it really upset and hurt them to see the house so messy, that we weren't looking after it. So it wasn't coming from a place of it upset them to know that we were struggling, that I was struggling that much to get it done. It was coming from a place of, it's upsetting me that you haven't put your mind in gear and just done this, that you're allowing it to get like this. So they hadn't listened to me when I'd explained that I wasn't able to. I couldn't really explain it more than that at that time because obviously I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't understand where it was coming from. That was obviously particularly painful because they just presumed that I was doing nothing and I didn't care, and they didn't see the battle that was going on inside my head. Now as a parent, I feel that if my house is messy, that I'm going to be judged even more because I'm a parent. I'm meant to have it all together. Well, I'm meant to have it together enough to have a clean house and do everything else that society expects you to do as a mother. I think that judgment probably cuts deeper than anything. And there's a lot of invisible effort that goes into things. When I'm struggling to get started, my brain isn't doing nothing. I'm trying to think of a way to get through it and get started, and eventually I will always get there. And that's what I tell myself now, that I will always get there, and that's perfectly okay. I think sometimes people will try and push me sooner, and that actually ends up delaying things even more. That might also play into demand avoidance, but again, that's another topic. If you want me to do a full video on that, please do let me know. And of course, from that, there comes shame. The more judged or ashamed that you feel, the harder it gets to begin. It's like people putting extra bricks up in front of a wall that I'm already struggling to climb. So let's talk about the brain science. See how my eyes light up with that? I love looking into all this. Executive functions are like the CEO of the brain, shall we say. It controls planning, starting and switching tasks. And let's talk about the AuDHD mix. So you've got ADHD. From ADHD, you've got like that dopamine gap. So boring or low reward tasks like emails, admin, cleaning, they don't really light up the brain. So we're more likely to try and do those tasks really quickly if we can, maybe not get them done properly, and then it can cause more problems down the line. Or it might just be that we can't get them done altogether. That's not related to willpower, that's actual chemistry. Or ADHD brains need dopamine to survive. It can feel painful when we're not seeking that dopamine. And that's another reason why it could be linked to depression. And then you've got the autism side. The brain needs more time to fully process things, and it can take a long time for some autistic people to process things. Generally speaking, though, most autistic people will need longer to process anything. So one example that I have is when my kids are arguing or they're doing something that they shouldn't, most parents will jump up straight away and know what to say and how to stop it. But sometimes it takes me a second to actually know what to say or what to do. Sometimes it takes a second for my brain to switch from the thing that I was doing to stopping that. And that can create other problems as well, because it means that I don't always sort of trust myself to be fast on my feet in certain scenarios. But it's weird because there are other scenarios where I'm actually really fast. That's something really interesting to look up, actually. Might look that one up next. But yeah, people see that on the outside as not caring about your kids, not listening. It's literally just that my brain is taking a bit longer to go from that one thing to the next. So with a combination of ADHD and autism, ADHD is struggling to sort of kickstart and do anything that isn't really that rewarded. And autism is still figuring out the last thing that happened. And the result is there's a total brain jam. It's almost like being shoved onto the next conveyor belt before you've even got off the first. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, but on the inside, the brain is working overtime. So let's go through some more real world impacts of executive dysfunction. This is based on me and my experiences. Of course, this doesn't represent everything that might be affected by executive dysfunction, because we are all different. So the school run in the morning, it might look like me sat on the sofa struggling to get going even though we're already running late. The kids are half dressed, the bags still need to be filled, and we should have left 5 minutes ago. In the house, it can look like toys piling up, dishes being left, laundry being left, laundry stuck in a machine and being forgotten about. And that's not because I don't notice, it's because it feels impossible to get started when there is so much to do. And as I mentioned, those tasks can feel huge. In relationship, it might feel like your partner doesn't care, and that might cause tension or misunderstandings, which can be really difficult. There's the internal guilt, feeling like you're failing your kids, your partner, or yourself. But the reality is we're already working twice as hard, but the effort is invisible because the results aren't visible. Some strategies that might help you. There's an important note here, it's not a magic fix, and some things will work for one person and other things will work for others. But small bridges might help to cross that gap between stuck and started. Some people find that it's helpful to break things down into micro steps. So instead of get kids ready, it might be breaking it down to get the socks on, get the shoes on, get the top on, get the trousers on. Some people find that visual timers can be helpful. So that might be like a sand timer, or you could just use a timer on your phone. That sort of makes tasks concrete with a clear end point. So you could do it that, say you've got a really big task to do, you've got a load of clothes that you need to put away. If you set a timer for 5 minutes, you're going to put clothes away for 5 minutes. If you get to the end of that 5 minutes and you're really struggling and you're really done, you can stop that then, but you've still done it. You've still done the task that you said you were going to do. But it might be that your brain has got into gear and you're nearly done at that point, and then you want to finish it. Body doubling is another thing that a lot of people find helpful. That might be FaceTiming a friend. It could be like tidying while you're chatting on the phone. Some people even find that watching videos, certain types of videos online on like YouTube, or listening to music can almost do the same sort of thing. There's also an app, I believe, that's a body doubling app now. If you can, preparing the night before, is golden. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to do this for the last 19 years since I started high school, and I still haven't managed to do it yet. If you can get all the clothes together and the lunches and the bags or whatever you need the night before, there's fewer decisions that you have to make in the morning, which makes life a lot easier for you. And the most important thing of all is compassion. When you label yourself as lazy, you're going to freeze harder. But if you can tell yourself, this is executive dysfunction, it's not laziness, I deserve support, your brain will feel safer to begin. So if you're still here with us, comment down below what's one strategy that you want to try. So let's wrap this up. Executive dysfunction isn't laziness. It's your brain asking for support. So next time that you're staring at school bags or frozen in front of the toy mess, I hope that you'll remember your struggle is valid. Your invisible effort counts, and you're not alone in this. If you want to dive deeper, I've got some free resources that are linked down below. I release a new free resource every single week. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every week about AuDHD life, parenting, the science behind it all, and strategies that help us make sense of our brains. Lastly, I'd love to know in the comments, what's that smallest task that feels like climbing a mountain to you? Because I promise that you are not the only one. I'm Jess, that AuDHD mum. Let's make this space make sense for our brains.